Hello, everybody. This is Tom Randall from Goldencare, and I want to welcome you to this webinar today. This is on the short-term care, Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative, and we're really excited today to get into what we call our Short-Term Care 101 webinar. And I have my partner in crime, Dennis Reiner, on the call with me today, and Dennis is a wily veteran who's been around as long as I have. We've been working forever in this business for 25 plus years. I think I'm in my 27th year here at Goldencare, and I've had the pleasure and honor of working side by side with Dennis almost throughout those years, pretty much from the beginning. So we're really excited to get into this initiative to start training some of these agents out there. Folks like you who are out, and a lot of you are doing totally different things, selling Medicare or something else. And it's really exciting for us to be able to have the opportunity to jump on and spread some of our knowledge and expertise, if you will, especially when it comes to the sales side of this product initiation. So, Dennis, you want to jump in, say hi? We'll get rolling here if it's okay with you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. This is a fun topic, and we look forward to sharing this information with you.
You bet. You bet. We'll get going, and as we go through, you'll see Dennis and I jump back and forth, and we're obviously in different locations, so I always give my little disclaimer. If for some reason I'm blowing your ears off, or Dennis is blowing your ears off, and the other one sounds quiet, whatever the case may be, I apologize about that with the sound differences. But I promise you this, we're going to do our very best to help you out when you're out in the trenches, to help those Americans. And Dennis is probably tired of me going through this slide, but it's something that I do at the beginning of just about every one of these webinars, because one of the things you'll know if you know Dennis or myself, when it comes to this type of product, we're very passionate about it, because at the end of the day, you know, we've written over $1 billion of long-term care together with our agencies, and we know long-term care was so important. And now you'll see, we'll talk about the shifting market, et cetera, and how short-term care has become a huge part of that. But at the end of the day, the stats never change, right? 70% of Americans over age 65 are going to need some type of extended care. And we're not just talking just a couple of days of care. We're talking about extended for 90 plus days, et cetera. So if you have a married couple, you're looking at married couples, and we work with a lot of them. One of the two of them, in 90% of the cases, are going to need some type of care before they pass. So it's really an important thing that we're talking about today. And I'm really thankful that some of you jumped on today, because unfortunately, everybody's going to need it just about, but 90% of adults out there have never had a really serious conversation with anybody about how they can go out and protect themselves and their families. So that's what we're doing here. And again, if you can say anything good happened with COVID, it's probably the fact that that last little stat obviously is really scary. But when people are passing away inside these nursing homes and facilities, people were looking at it and saying, well, I'd rather die than go to a facility. So that's one of the things we'll teach you when we get into the sales side. We don't talk a lot about, hey, I sell nursing home insurance or a facility protection. It's one of those things that's necessary, but people buy these policies by and large, as you probably know, to try to stay out of the facility, try to have as many options available to them as possible to stay at home. So that's one of the things we'll talk about more in our sales side of it. But again, it's so important for you folks to go out. We had a lot of gray hair in America, and it's so important that we're out there and offer them some type of protection. So Dennis, I don't know if you want to talk about the shifting market a little bit. I jump in anytime, of course, as well.
Yeah, you bet, Tom. Well, you know, Tom just mentioned about our experience with long-term care, and to some degree, what we've seen is that, you know, in those early days of long-term care, our average age was 72, and we were placing a very high percentage of the business. But what happened over time is the carrier appetites began to shift, and as such, both agents and consumers found themselves aligned really on the same side of the aisle. That is, that they were asking for a lot of different things, but I'll break it down mainly into three areas. They were asking for products that would have less underwriting. They wanted to have products that would be less complicated. That means having less moving parts. And they wanted products that would be less expensive. And so part of that shift over time has been this evolution of short-term care. And we're grateful with our bandwidth with integrity that we have really three proprietary products that will help. And this is really even evident as to why we need short-term care today. This stat here, 80% of mature Americans 65 plus have at least one chronic condition. So you can see that many of those clients that maybe you had sold long-term care to earlier, that were earlier candidates, that buying age is shifted down into the 50s. And yet these folks, as Tom said, really need help, who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And certainly the short-term care, what we like to call extended care products, really fit that void in the marketplace. And so we're very excited that we have products that we can actually go back to the future in essence. So Tom's going to share with us again some of the differences for those of you that maybe don't have the experience in knowing some of the history of long-term care or having been on the long-term care side. So Tom, I'll turn it back to you.
You bet. Thanks. And again, this is one of those things we spent a lot of times, obviously, with our existing agents who are big into long-term care. And we always said, boy, make sure you take that long-term care hat off or tilt to the side, because short-term care is a little bit different. But I will tell you, if you're not familiar with either of these products, if you've just been selling life or Medicare or whatever the case may be, and you've never really had a lot of experience with it, we like just to spend a minute to talk about some of the differences. And the main one is right here. And long-term care is defined by law, because there's some tax consequences and some things they have built in, that it's literally a definition of a long-term care plan that provides health insurance for at least 2 years worth of coverage that they can have on any one claim. And most of the plans that you sell for long-term care are like 3-year plans, 4-year plans. And of course, in the legacy business days, back when we started selling, when Dennis and I started selling, the average age was 72, and we were going through underwriting in a breeze, etc. I won't bore you to tears, but I can talk for a half hour about how that has changed over the years. Now we don't sell, they're not even available most of the time, these unlimited plans. They're always selling smaller and smaller plans in the long-term care market, but the underwriting, like Dennis had talked about, has been getting more difficult because these carriers have reeled in. And short-term care, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, one of the biggest things you have to get over is that short-term care isn't a defined definition nationwide. You're going to hear us in sales talking a lot about extended care, because short-term care is just a name that they decided, if it isn't long-term care, we'll call it short-term care. And unfortunately, there's a lot of really educated adults out there who think, well, short-term care must cover like 90 days, or it covers just a few days. So that's one of the things you're going to hear, is that they can be actually nowadays up to 2 years worth of coverage on one claim. But the good news is, because they're what we call defined benefit plans, they're very much more structured as far as the premiums. They're lower premiums, they're easier, things that Dennis talked about. These are much more easy products to get your arms around, but they can be very robust, as I'll show you in a minute as well. But with the long-term care plans, when they had the inflation on there, they could really increase the exposure and risk, because they were selling 5 or 6 or 8-year plans with compound inflation. Now, even though these plans have inflation and you can make them very robust, as you'll see, they're limited because they know exactly how long that they have to pay the claim if it got to the worst case scenario. So those catastrophic claims are something you don't see with short-term care coverage, and that's what helps us for the long tail with these products. We already talked about the fact that nowadays the underwriting is really tough. You know, over half the people trying to get a policy at 65 or 70 aren't going to be able to get a long-term care product. But with short-term care, they're not as afraid of those catastrophic claims, so the underwriting is much easier. And along with that, it means that we don't have these big 45-page applications that some agents love so much with long-term care. With these, you're going to see these apps are 2 or 3 or 4 pages long, with literally 1 page at max of underwriting questions. So much easier to explain to clients, not as many riders. So in a nutshell, they're very affordable, very simple, and you don't need any special certifications or special CE to be able to go sell those like you do nowadays with long-term care, because those products have become so complex. And again, long-term care is still there. It's still something we buttered our bread with long-term care for years. So we have certain things that we usually don't get into with the crowds that are used to selling more Medicare, but we do have pivot presentations that we can get you, and that'll show you how to go right from the beginning all the way through to long-term care if you'd like. But most of the time, what we're doing here with the short-term care initiative is really, like Dennis said, going back to the future, because now we can protect older prospects. You can look across the table. A lot of you on this call are probably Medicare agents, and you can go out there in a very simple way and show them some really nice protection that they have with this product. And Dennis, I'll just keep going here unless you want to jump in. Feel free at any time, obviously. But with short-term care, the costs are out there, and we have all these materials available for you. I'll show you at the end of this presentation or somewhere in the middle, a site we have for you called the Integrity STC site. And that has all these different things on there that you need and all the different tools and product information you'll need to be successful. But in a nutshell, on today's call with an short-term care 101, we do know there's a pretty significant cost of care. We know a large percentage of people are going to need care, and we know that if they're there for an extended period, it can be really expensive. You can see the costs of nursing homes and facilities in general are pushing $100,000 a year, and by the year 2030, it's obviously going to go up. It's not going to go down. And even home care, where we want to keep people at home, those can add up as well. Home health aides can be $169, $170 per day if you look at the cost. And again, we have places you can go see cost calculators if you wanted to. But at the end of the day, we know it's expensive. We know when people need care, especially if they need it for a long period of time, it can really add up. And remember when I talked about short-term care, a minute ago, I talked about the fact that a lot of people look at short-term care and they say, you know, how well is it going to cover these costs, right? Is short-term care going to get the job done? We need help at home, like dressing, bathing, and those things, activities, daily living. But if they need to go to assisted living or skilled nursing facility, do we have the ability to help them pay for it with short-term care, where we know long-term care used to do a great job of that? And that's one of the things that I'm just going to keep rolling here, Dennis, on the packs of punch. This is something we put together, and this is just Omniflex. It's one of our short-term care plans. It just happened to be for this product that I put this together, but all the products work the same way. So if you had Willoughby or the GTL plan, they're all great, full, comprehensive short-term care plans. And we have some home health care plans we'll talk a little bit about today too. But at the end of the day, we have a plan that'll fit just about anybody. And if they can get these comprehensive short-term care plans, I'm going to try to shorten this so you'll be drinking out of a fire hose for the next couple of minutes. But I just want to show you how powerful they are. A lot of adults, my sister was the one who brought it to my attention. She was like, oh, short-term care, cool. You help design a couple policies like that. Are those plans that cover 90 days for people to get out of a hospital and recover? And I said, you know, they do that. But at the same token, you can also make them really robust plans. So we're going to talk a lot about that as you get into the sales process, that number one, you don't have to cover every dollar of everybody's expenses, but these short-term care plans really can pack a punch. So I'm going to show you the far extreme first. If you were to go out and sell a facility plan at $400 per day, remember that's 30 days of coverage in a month. So that's $12,000 a month, which is really strong. And this is for a plan with no inflation. And because we can sell like a 360-day benefit period for this short-term care plan, again, all the plans would work about the same here. You could get $144,000 of coverage just from the facility. And again, they have restoration in that I'm not going to get into today, but it could be double that amount for the life of the policy. But for one claim is what we'll look at for today, $144,000. But we don't stop there, right? We also have a home healthcare rider or a home healthcare part of the policy. Willoughby has this as a base policy. With home care added onto there, and this is, again, one of the main reasons people buy, you can get $300 maximum per day with the home healthcare for Omniflex. And with $300 per day, 30 days worth of coverage is $9,000 a month potentially if they had care every day, right? That's significant. So for that same one claim, so maybe somebody starts at home and goes to the facility or vice versa, they could have $108,000 for the home care, and they could have both of them together. This is something that happens. We call it the progression of care. So somebody could theoretically go on claim, and if it was a bad enough claim, like they had a stroke or something, they could end up getting care at home and then needing to go to a facility, and they could have $252,000 worth of coverage for one claim alone. There's $108,000 for the home care and $144,000, right? Restoration could double that because they always pay for restoration again, which we won't get into on the call. But that was just without inflation. With inflation, watch what your screen's doing. The blue band there shows you that we can sell these plans with inflation. And the inflation can go indefinitely for some of the carriers. With Omniflex, it happens to double. It goes simple inflation till it doubles. Now, instead of $400 per day for facility on the top there, you can see that it's $800 per day or 24 grand a month, 288,000. Home care, same deal. These are indemnity benefits, remember. So any day you're on claim and you need care, if you have somebody come into your house, it'll pay the full indemnity benefit. Even if your actual cost for a home health aid, for example, is only 50 or $100 a day, it'll still cover you and pay you for the full amount that you're at. So in this case, 600 per day. If we double that, $18,000 a month for home care. Again, I'm spending a lot of time. For some of you who may not understand anything about these plans yet, we have full training on all of the plans, and all of them work similarly as far as having two parts to a claim. So in this example, 216 at home, 288 on the facility, you'd have over $500,000 worth of potential for one claim. And the $1 million mark we talk about when you talk about robust plans, if somebody used full maximum restoration in these plans, you could have over $1 million for policy potential from these policies. And again, I throw this in because we're talking about it, but these plans are very affordable. With a 55-year-old, you can see there, that's under $100 a month. With a 65-year-old, it goes up, obviously, for this. This is the full-blown plan. So with this one for a 65-year-old, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but I think it's 193 or something like that. So for under $200 a month for a 65-year-old, you could sell a really, really huge plan. And again, if you added the rest or inflation on there, you could have 163 for a 55-year-old. So all I'm showing you is it's pretty affordable. And again, the biggest thing we'll talk about is you don't have to go back and sell a plan that does all of that. I'm just showing you it's there because some of your clients, we use the word extended care because some of your clients are going to look at that and think, oh, short-term care, that must be a baby policy. Well, I'll tell you what, we named the plan with Manhattan Life Omniflex for a reason, because all of these plans that you see on your screen here, and Dennis will talk about availability, all of these plans are very, very flexible. So I can sell you that robust plan, but the nice part about this is we can scale these down to sell them very, very, very affordable plans that literally can be $20 or $30 a month, and it can still do a good job for them. So I just wanted to point that out. And again, Dennis, I know I went a little deep there, but go ahead and maybe talk a little bit about, I have 2 slides here with the short-term and then the home care.
Yeah, you bet, Tom. I think that, when we look at the availability, as I mentioned, we have 3 proprietary products, the Manhattan that Tom was referencing in the example, and you can see just how powerful that is in terms of, giving people that comprehensive of coverage, or going the other extreme, as Tom said, just basically providing people some coverage, and you can change the benefit periods, you can change the elimination. There's all kinds of ways that you can save premium. But if we look at the map here, GTL's in approximately 35 states, Omni's in 31, and soon to be the end of the month, and this is where Tom likes to take his cursor and put it over the state that's coming on board, which is Indiana, and that'll be probably the end of September, first part of October. And Wallaby, because they're the latest entry into the short-term care space, they're coming out of the chutes with 10 states, and they will, when they add more states, there'll be some probably at the end of the year. They do them in 5-state increments, and so you can see here where all 3 of the products play together. You can see where GTL and Omniflex are, and Omniflex and Wallaby, and all 3. And this is, again, the short-term care. And then Tom likes to point out, if you in the gray area, Tom, if you just now the blue area, I guess it's the same. So
I'm jumping around on you. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, that's okay. So you may want to point out what it is that we do, because we want to have a perfect portfolio, which means we recognize that some of you are listening to this webinar and you're thinking, gee, I live in California, or I live in Florida, or I live in Washington. So Tom, we want to make sure that they know that we have solutions in all states.
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things you'll see now. It changed to blue. This is our home care states. And you can see here, we have basically what we did with this short-term care initiative. And there's other products out there you may have, but most of you, if you're coming from Medicare and haven't done this before, we decided just to pick to start with the 6 proprietary products that we have available for us that can do a great job of covering just about anybody you'd ever see in the field. And that's why this home care is really important. The home care plans, if you haven't been in any training before, they don't pay facility, obviously. That makes sense, right? But they also have some limitations on the home health aid because they want to throw the net super wide, and the underwriting becomes really, really, really simple with these home health care only plans. So we love to have these because our goal is to have you folks looking across the table or looking across the internet, if you will, and having a solution for virtually anybody you're talking to. And that's the nice part, because we not only have these GTL and the Manhattan Life home care products that really ask just 1 or 2 underwriting questions, so they're very easy to get. But there's still going to be these states like California and Washington and good old Minnesota that I'm living right in the middle of, in Florida and out northeast here, where a lot of states say, you know what, we don't like to have these home health care plans or these short-term care plans on the insurance side of it. And they get worried. They think they're helping their consumers. I could get into a whole different soapbox about that. And we're trying to change their mind in like Minnesota and Florida. We're making a little bit of headway. But what Dennis was talking about is we have this True Freedom home care plan. It's a service plan. It's kind of a prepaid plan. It's actually super powerful. So if you really want to help your clients, it's really nice to have, especially for these states where there's no other products available. Tell you what, they're available in all 50 states, and it makes it so nice to be able to look across the table and say, wherever you live, almost whatever your health is. I mean, there's literally like one caveat that you're not already receiving care for True Freedom. You can get a policy or something to help them, whether it's a true insurance plan or even the prepaid plan from True Freedom. So really nice. Dennis, I don't know if you want to add more to that, but go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, I was just going to say, we talked again about plan design, where Tom was talking about how robust the plans are. And that is true even with the standalone home healthcare plans. You can find a plan for any budget, and the same thing holds true with True Freedom, all the way down. Think of it like AAA. It's a membership. In fact, on this Wednesday, we're going to do a separate webinar just on the True Freedom that you may want to attend, but you can go all the way down to 600 hours and before discounts with a price of $39 a month. And you can go all the way up to 10,000 hours with a substantially higher premium. So the important thing is, regardless of the solution, is that what you're trying to make sure that your clients understand is the importance of planning ahead, to be prepared, to be proactive, because obviously when they're proactive and they put in place any of these solutions, then they're not having to react. They're much more prepared, but reacting always puts people on the defensive, and it always creates a scrambling effect, because although family may always be involved to some degree in their care, when they don't have a plan in place, it becomes too late. It's like the house is being on fire and you're driving away and you're asking yourself, gee, did we have homeowners insurance? And if you didn't, then obviously the liability can be very substantial. And the same holds true here as well. So yeah. Tom, as we move...
Go ahead, Dan.
No, I was going to say, so as we move on maybe to the next...
and as we move on to the next one, I'm going to let Dennis, and Dennis has literally trained over 100,000 plus agents over his life, and I've done a lot of agent training on the sales side and a lot of live webinars that or live seminars, excuse me, now I can't even say them anymore, we're so used to webinars, but a lot of live seminars and trainings for consumers to educate them about the need for preparing and helping their families. And as I move to the next slide here and turn it over to Dennis, I do want you to know that's the beauty of this that we go into, and this is why we call this STC 101, is that we want to make sure it's an important thing that we do for our clients. And it seems like, oh my gosh, this is going to be something I got to learn and become a master of all this and go to med school probably to figure out the underwriting. I want to make sure that's not the case. This is something that if you go to our sales training, you're going to see our biggest goal here is actually to make this thing move the needle and make people take the initiative, step out of their comfort zone just a tiny bit instead of a lot, so we can help these seniors and help your clients and help your persistency and help you make more money and all the things that go along with it. So remember, we do have ways to really simplify it. And I'll turn it back over to Dennis as we start that part of this conversation today.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. We do have recorded webinars on this. one that we call Back to Basics. That it's a little bit shorter format than this webinar, and it covers some of the same points that we're making right now, which is starting the conversation. Who do you have the conversation with? Well, if you're on this call today and your main focus is Medicare, then and you have AEP that's coming very soon here, then that would probably be the primary client to be focused on is your existing Medicare client. But you'll see here in a moment with another visual that it might be your life client. It could be a final expense client or an annuity client, or a client that if you happen to be someone that does assets under management. But so who do you have the conversation with? It's someone that you feel that fits that criteria. Certainly having the conversation with younger people may not always be, although we can go all the way down to 40 and 45 respectively with most of these short-term care products and home care products. And with True Freedom, there's no age limit at all. It's finding out who's the appropriate person that you should be having this conversation with. And certainly, as we're focused on the senior market, we know that those that are aging in, who are 65 and above, are perfect candidates to have this conversation with. And why do you need to have it? All depends again on their circumstances. If they're a Medicare client, you're probably having the conversation because they think that they're already covered. That's one of the definitions of a myth. A myth is an idea of belief that someone thinks is true, which in actuality is false. And so you need to have the conversation because they think that they're already covered. In fact, they're not. And we go into great detail in some of our other training that actually teaches you kind of a 5-step selling process to go through and to make sure that the reason why with your Medicare client that you're having the conversation is because you need to make sure that they know that the other half of their healthcare plan that isn't being covered, that you want to make sure is covered, and that's that extended care conversation. And when to have the conversation, again, that's entirely up to you. It's some of you may want to tee up the conversation at the end of the Medicare interview, whether that's done face to face or whether that's done remotely or whether that was done just over the phone. And so it may be that you're just going to set the time to come back and have the real interview with that client because you don't have time. But if you do have time, it doesn't take very long at all to actually have that conversation. We had a conference I attended here a few weeks back. It was one of our other partners, and I happened to be in a restaurant at the Marriott Hotel, and I'll make this kind of the Reader's Digest version of this, but when to have the conversation, it came up that the individual asked me what I was in town for. I mentioned the conference. I mentioned it was a conference that dealt with seniors and products that seniors need to be mindful of. And the individual said, "Do you know anything about Medicare?" I said, "Yeah, I know a little bit about Medicare." And she proceeded to have a couple of Medicare questions. And that's when I had the conversation. I had it right then and there. And so, it doesn't always have to be existing clients. It may be people that you bump into that know a little bit about your business and what you're doing. As it turned out, this is an individual that within 5 minutes, literally within 5 minutes, she had pulled out her Marriott business card. I had both her email address and date of birth, and actually went onto the exhibit floor where this integrity partner was having a pre-AEP symposium, and came back with materials and really set up that conversation. And I'll share with you a little bit more here in just a moment about the exact thing that I'm telling you. I mean, all the things that don't work, Tom and I aren't going to talk to you about, because we've been doing this long enough to know that the things that don't work, we know where the puddles are. So we're trying to help navigate and make sure that you can only utilize the words and the ways in which you have the conversation on the things that actually do work. And how do you start the conversation? Again, it's very easy. All you have to do is just bring it up, and you bring it up in a way by which you can that it is comfortable. It's non-threatening. It's just conversational. And what you may want to do is we go on to the next visual, Tom, and we set the table.
You bet. I just want to jump in real quick. When he talked about why do you need to start the conversation and stuff, I just wanted to add in one more thing, Dennis, if you don't mind, and I won't take you too far segued. But a lot of it is, I kind of alluded to it a few slides ago too, is remember, we're passionate about this. We know the people need it. They're starving for this information, just like Dennis said at his breakfast meeting. But at the same token, one of the things that I can't stress enough for you Medicare agents, and one of the reasons we talked to Integrity and this whole short-term care initiative came up, is that nowadays you guys know the Medicare market. If you're up to your neck in Medicare, every year it's the same thing. Now I got to go back and figure out a way to touch all my clients and make sure they know that we're still the best deal, or I can get them to the best deal, and all those different conversations that you have. One of the things, and one of the peripheral things that these products do for you, it's a huge benefit to you. And I know it's not rocket science, but I'll tell you what, multi-products, cross-selling, helping them with this cements you in as more of a leader, because you're helping them with more parts of their healthcare needs, and it keeps them really reliant upon you as their trusted advocate. So remember that. Plus, we know it's not a hobby. There's really nice commissions with this products, so you can get some nice extra commissions and nice extra renewal commissions as well. And lots of other reasons. So I just want to make sure we touched on that before Dennis got into the next slide. So I'll give her back to Dennis. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, Tom, that's such an important point. The stickiness of those relationships, because people are shoppers, and oftentimes they may think that you only do one thing, and as such, as Tom indicated, the fact that you can be a resource in more than one area really is very important. And when you have this conversation, make it natural, and we all need a track to run on. And I'm not trying to suggest today that you have to have a verbatim script, but you should be able to get comfortable with maybe using familiar words that maybe will resonate with the client. And one of the techniques that I've trained on with agents and have used personally, as Tom mentioned about the amount of consumer seminars that we've done over the years. We had a broker-dealer client where literally Tom and I were doing hundreds of consumer workshops a year, and they were writing millions and millions of long-term care premium. And invariably, when you are starting that conversation, having some form of a track that will keep you kind of on the flow, so the flow is making sense to the client and making sense to you. And so one of them is what we call feel, F-E-E-L, felt, F-E-L-T, found. And so it's very simple. And sometimes it's always good to use a third party. Talk about some of your other clients and what your other clients' experiences are. Clients like to hear that. They don't want to feel like they're all alone and fearful that they're going to make a wrong decision or they're going to become indecisive. And so you can basically, when having this conversation, that's an easy way. It might go something like this. You might say, and I'll just use Bob and Mary as my reference, that Bob and Mary, we just got done having our Medicare conversation, and I'm now going to bring up the topic of extended care, short-term care or long-term care, but extended care is also just a softer term, because sometimes people have preconceived notions when you use words that have, in their mind, they might have a negative connotation. People might think of long-term care, and the instant thing that they think of, as Tom said, is nursing home. So I might say something like this. Some of my clients feel they are already covered because they have Medicare. And you go on to explain that what they have is what we call immediate care coverage through their Medicare program. And they also have supplemental coverage, either with their Medicare Advantage or with their Medicare Supplement. But what they don't have is extended care coverage. And then you can go on and take another minute to explain kind of this other half of their healthcare plan. But going further, just to kind of show you again this track, if you will, this feel, felt, found, you could say, now that you understand, as I shared with you about my other clients, that they weren't covered for extended care, my clients, Bob and Mary, felt because of this gap in their existing Medicare healthcare planning, along with the potential huge out-of-pocket cost of care. Tom also just walked us through and showed you the exorbitant skyrocketing cost of care, from home care, $50,000 a year up to $100,000 a year in facility. Back to the story that they need to explore then their options on getting protected. Can you both see how important it is and why I wanted to have this conversation? And then you may go on if you want to go a little bit deeper. And again, in that restaurant situation, I did not have to go into a long, exhaustive need building exercise. When I explained very simply and answered her Medicare question and then proceeded to talk to her about the other half of her healthcare plan, I didn't need to go deeper. But you may want to be prepared just in case. And so if the client needs a little bit more, you might say, my other clients also felt that what made it real for them was their personal experience of having a family member experience paying for care, and go through it. Maybe you share an experience because you've asked them about if they've known anyone who's needed care. And then finally, my clients who I've had this discussion with, they were pleasantly surprised when they found out how painless the process was to apply for coverage. And so the feel, felt, found, and you can go through and you can say, hey, my clients also found that their plan was personalized for them and easy to understand as far as what it covered with respect to home care and the facility care. And again, you might accentuate whatever product it is that you're going to be recommending. But I'm not trying to give you a full interview. I'm just trying to help you to say, if you will use words that, one, become familiar to the client, and also it'll help you to stay on track. And so as you see here, this pyramid has long-term care, life, annuity, and Medicare. We're focused today on the Medicare discussion, but you know what? You may have clients who have annuities through you, or they may have annuities somewhere else, or they may have life insurance or final expense. And they even may have said to you that they already own long-term care. And there's still an opportunity to make sure that you're having this conversation. And so I like to think of it as a way by which we frame the conversation. And by framing it, we're going to tee up a question. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sit back and we're going to listen to how they answer. And then based on their answer, we're going to drill down deeper. And I like to use a ratio of what I call 70-30, where 70% of the time I'm basically becoming a good listener, and 30% of the time I'm becoming the framer who frames the question. And so when you frame and when you listen, the most important thing as we move into that third step is this balance between logic and emotion. You know, people do get emotional when they think about stories or experiences, especially if it's something very near and dear to them about a family member. And so emotional decision making is always part of the process. But don't discount what Tom showed you earlier about when he talked about the affordability aspect and finding the ability to find a plan for any budget, because people are very logical. If things don't make sense and they don't fit together, oftentimes people it will create indecision. So logic and emotion, balancing the two, is very, very important. And ultimately, you know, if you give people enough information, and remember, our end goal is to be of service to people, to really point out and to educate them about the importance of what it is that you're offering, so that they can be led to that logical conclusion. No one wants to be coerced or forced or have someone try to twist their arm. And with these products, you don't have to do anything that's high that takes that type of what I would think of as an unethical approach. You can basically just help them to see, so that they can then be led to that conclusion about what makes sense for them. You know, making an informed decision. It reminds me of this quote that goes like this. It says, the ultimate power lies in the people themselves. If we think them not enlightened to cast an informed discretion, the remedy is never to take away someone's discretion, but to simply inform it. And as we follow that four-step process of framing, listening, balancing, and leading, I think you'll find you'll have a lot more success. And Tom, we want to turn our attention, I think, briefly just to show agents where all of this information is. And so I'll turn it back to you.
You bet. Thanks, Dennis. And again, you guys, it's one of those things. This is an introduction webinar, so we haven't even been able to touch on a lot of the things that really make this thing so easy for you. Again, we have be on the lookout for your marketer that sent you to this webinar, and look for our other webinars on not only on the product training, obviously, but on some of the different starting the conversation, et cetera, designing a plan. we're going to get into it a little bit, and it isn't rocket science. The biggest thing I stress, and Dennis stresses, is that don't think that you have to be a pro and understand everything about these plans, because that's why we're here. We're here to offer you all the things you need so you can feel comfortable knowing, number one, the plan choices you have are solid, and number two, we have tools to make it easy for you to go through and help your clients with this without feeling like we're pulling you away from what you do every day, day in and day out. I mean, literally at the end of the conversation, when you get done selling your MA or your Med Sup or whatever it might be, it literally can be as easy as saying, you know, before I let you go, I just want to make sure we got it covered. You have your extended care needs covered, right? I mean, it can be that easy to start the conversation, and we'll get into that with future sales calls, et cetera, to show you how easy it is. And we have materials available on this site to help you with that. So we're getting close to the 45 here, so I don't want to go too deep, but if you click on sales and marketing, you're going to be able to see that. Hopefully it's not been up too long where it's going to take a long time on a webinar. There we go. Hopefully you're seeing that, but it talks a little bit about the stats on why extended care. But then you'll see down below, down here, some really nice videos that you can look at that talk about personalized plan designs. And Dennis mentioned the back to the basics down there. Well worth looking at as an agent. And then inside here, we have more videos that we have. We have the InstaPivot, show you how to get to the underwriting tool that you can instantly see what product a client would be able to get underwriting for and get qualified for. And then we have flyers and graphics and different things you need on the sales side. So everything you need to be successful here and help your clients is there. And then, of course, under each product, we even have more stuff available for you, where if you were to click on any of the given products, whether it's full-blown short-term care or the home health care, we talked about True Freedom over here is the non-insurance plan. It's kind of a membership plan, Dennis said, and our home health care only plans. If you click on those buttons, and again, I won't go in deep on it, but I just want you to know it's there. We're not going to throw you out of the plane and hope that your parachute works. We're going to keep there with you and help you be successful from start to finish. So you can see here, little availability, little quick video on Omniflex. And again, all the products are similar, where we have product highlights. If you click that, it would show you how the product works in a nutshell, bird's eye view. And then all the different things that you need as far as presentations and brochures, et cetera, all the way down to how to get on the quoting site and how to do enrollments and frequently asked questions. Every one of these things will have something in there that'll help you be able to help your clients. So that's my little quick elevator speech on making sure you talk to your partners, because the next step is up to you to go out and talk to those folks that got you on this webinar today. And hopefully this won't be too big a delay. Contact that marketer to find out if you're not appointed with these companies. Go out and get appointed and take the next step, because it's real easy to do. Once you get set up, it's pretty easy to go out and help people and help solidify and keep your persistency up. So Dennis, any closing thoughts?
Well, you know, Tom, I think the most important thing is that you can do this. This is, I know that everyone, especially that are in the Medicare space, they get so hyper-focused, and rightfully so, because you have a limited window of time, and you want to make sure you're maximizing it. You're seeing probably hundreds of people. Maybe you're sitting in a Walmart. Maybe you're just going back to your existing clients, and you're just thinking, I just don't have time. Just take the opportunity to again, plant the seed and then come back. You don't have to do it right then and there, but these plans are simple to understand. The presentation is simple. It really is a very, very easy interview process. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised after you do it once or twice or three times, that you'll just say, oh my gosh, why have I waited so long to actually do this? And your clients will be very grateful that you've actually got outside of your comfort level and basically know that if you're not going to take this opportunity, really be prepared. This emerging market, someone else is going to have that conversation. And so it should be you. So thank you very much for joining us, and hope that you'll take the opportunity. If there's another time, another topic that fits your schedule, that you'll come back on. We're going to be back at 2 Eastern today on the GTL quoting, and then coming up each day this week, we've got more topics to share with you. And our goal is to make it easy for you to get started.
Perfect. Thanks, Dennis. And again, this is Tom Randall and Dennis Reiner, and thank you very much for taking your valuable time, and contact your marketer who got you on the call, and we'll keep being there to help you out along the way. Have a great day, everybody.
The next step is yours. Contact your marketer for more information and to start offering short-term care solutions to your clients. And be sure to sign up for our other short-term care hot topic webinars.